Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissick and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissick.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, good morning, Dana. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I thought you were going to be in St. John or somewhere.
I leave Monday.
Monday. Oh, I was thinking for some reason
next week.
I was thinking you were leaving right after our Leadership Academy on Tuesday. I was really jealous, thinking, man, she's in the sunshine, basting it up, and then all of a sudden I saw you on Gary Keller's MasterMind. I'm like, what?
Nope. Yep. We leave on Monday. I'm super excited. We leave on Memorial Day and then come back next weekend. And I've never been. Have you been down there?
You know, I'm sure I have, but I get so immune to those places because we go a lot on cruises and different things that they kind of all run together. And, you know, I don't know. I'm real funny about where I like to go. I like to go where I like the food. And I don't really like is that the Caribbean? I think it is. I don't like Caribbean food. So
I think it's U.S. Virgin Islands. So I've never been down there. So I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe I've never been either. Who knows? Jimmy would know this. Nikki Baldini or Jimmy are usually always with me when I take a trip, so I never have to know any of the details. They know them all, and I don't need any of them.
I love that. Well, Heather's going on this trip, and she literally planned every single thing, like down to our food every day. I mean, everything.
Oh, boy. I love me a Heather.
And Adam said yesterday, where are you guys going? What are you doing? He said, how much is this trip? I said, I know nothing. I'm just literally getting on a plane. That's it.
I mean, would you tell him to stop asking those questions, like how much stuff costs and stuff? I mean, that just really ruins our fun.
I know. I know.
That's funny. Jimmy and I don't even ask anymore. We have this saying, it says, I want it because I want it. And so it's like, you know what? I want it because I want it. And and I'm kind of funny. My brain goes to work and figures out how to find another opportunity or make more money if I start spending too much.
Yep.
So we've had a busy week. We started out Tuesday with our Leadership Academy. That was amazing. We have a great group of leaders that we're putting through our Leadership Academy that we do once a month. And so that's fun. And we're getting ready to end this session with a great group of leaders. And then
I know, Linda, I told Heather on the car ride home, I said, I'm really going to miss this group.
No, I know. I thought about it. I thought, dang, it's going to end. And then what do we do next? I know we're going to have a new group, but it's like you want to do something to kind of keep the relationship going with this group because we love them so much. And I think we've done such a good job of nailing it.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we should, like, every year have a big reunion where everybody from all the leadership academies come together and we do something fun just to keep everybody together.
That's a great idea. And then the very next day, you and I are sitting on all day long. Were you on all day? I was on all day.
I was on all day. I was driving, and so I had it on. And then the second half, I actually got to take my good notes and all that. But yeah, I was on all day, and it was a lot.
So I was excited because, the reason I was on all day is because I love the topic. And I think when you get to be around someone like Gary Keller, who's just brilliant, and this could be any leader, could be your leader. But for me, one of the ones I always say I'm always going to be in front of and listen to is Gary. And when he brings such amazing topics to really stretch the way you think in your mind, I love those. And I always know that I always say Dan Sullivan says what he likes for his program is slow learners with lots of money because they keep renewing, right? Well, the good news about Gary is it doesn't cost us a fortune to be around him. But so I always want to listen over and over again because the messages a lot of times that he brings out are pretty far out there in the beginning, and then they always come to fruition. So you're always glad you listened more than once to get it.
Yep.
Yeah, so his topic was, and he brought on his guy that is, I don't know what you call Mitch, but Mitch is kind of his acquisition guy, and he found Mitch, I couldn't believe it had been 10 years, because I've had several conversations with Mitch over the years, and I didn't realize it had been so long. But he found Mitch years ago in West Virginia at the Greenbrier, moved him to Austin, put him through an MBA program, and now Mitch does nothing but look for business acquisitions for Gary. So we got to have a whole day of them talking about how they do that, how we can do that. And I love that because I think that's the beginning of stretching our minds to see potential and opportunity that maybe we didn't see ourselves doing before.
One of my favorite parts of the whole day was just learning about the relationship of Mitch and Gary. And I mean, I came back that night and told Adam, I said, honestly, Mitch has done what we all do and what agents do and what anybody does. I mean, he lead generated and you heard him. I mean, he said some of them he's worked for 6 years. But I was telling Adam about how he shared the story, and I don't remember which one it was, but he'd worked with them, and he basically just was cold called, built the relationship. And then in every situation, did you hear him say, Linda, he invited them eventually to hear Gary teach empire builders. And then that was how he got them to meet Gary. And then he just kept getting in front of them, giving them value. And then he would ask them if they wanted a partner or if they, wanted to merge or whatever the conversation was. And so one of my biggest takeaways from the whole day was just Mitch is a lead generator. I mean, he has built the relationships and he does it and he brings them value. And then it's turned out very nice for him and Gary.
Well, and you know me, I'm always looking for validation for my formula, the R plus V over T.
Yep.
And I would identify it. Okay, that's what he did. He built a relationship with business owners that have businesses that he might be interested in purchasing. Yep. He created validity by bringing them to empire builders and letting Gary teach empire builders to them and get to know him and Mitch better. And then he figured out what their value gap was and he stepped into that value gap and he created beholdenness and reciprocity and eventually the relationship came together. So I love it. I'm always looking for ways to validate that. And I thought, you know what? It's no different. The beautiful thing about success formulas and anything is they don't change.
Yeah.
It's not like, okay, it was this 2 years ago or 10 years ago and now it's this. So once you kind of get an idea of what you want to go after, really, it's the same success formula most people listening to this podcast have been doing for years anyway.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of thought it was interesting so Gary said that there's obviously 2 different businesses you would invest in. One is businesses that are related to your core business, but then the other is businesses that are unrelated to your core business. And sometimes I think we even forget, both ways. I think one, we forget about being able to even invest in what we're doing right now. And he said, if you're a real estate agent, you should be looking at every listing that comes across you to list to be able to think, is it something that you may want to do or look at? But then I was surprised to see how many non-real estate related businesses Gary is a part of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think once and that's, I think, where the courage has to come in because I feel like we know this business. And if I was going to buy a realtor's book of business, that would be no brainer. Yep. If I was going to but when you start veering out, and he said a very important part. He said, don't let the numbers validate a decision you've already made. Let the numbers be the decision you make, something like that. And so I think that's what has to happen when you're looking at businesses is, you really have to know what numbers you're looking for and you have to look at those numbers. We went yesterday, one of our agents is buying a building in a community next over from where her main market center is. And so they wanted us to come take a look at the building with them and kind of hear what they were doing. So we drove over and did it. And it was just amazing. I was so proud of them because this community is really growing and changing. And there's a lot of development that's about to happen along the river. Yep. And, I just was super impressed that they were thinking outside of the box. They were buying a building, and the good news is they're going to have like an Indy KW office, so there'll be other agents in that office, which is awesome because that'll help pay for her building. And then they had some other ideas of maybe leasing out part of the space next door to someone else. And so I just, I truly believe as realtors, that's how we have to start thinking. We have to, and I know we've been pounding our head, you got to be a business person. And I think most people relate that to, I need to be a business person with my own business. And yes, you do. But why can't we just be a business person, period, and go after other businesses? Why not us? Why not us? And so I think that's what I love about what Gary taught all day yesterday or day before, whenever it was, is that he really makes us as realtors wake up and say, why not us?
Yeah.
If he can do it, if other people can do it, we can do it also. But I think we don't expect that much of ourselves. You know, we see ourselves kind of as realtors and we sell houses, but I think we should see ourselves as business owners.
Yeah.
And he even talked about, you know, looking at other people's book of business as a big opportunity, because you've got the average age of our national average of realtors getting older, and those people don't have an exit plan. And so part of their value gap is that we could step into is they need a plan of how can I get this to continue paying me after I don't do it anymore.
That was a huge one. I know, and he talked a little bit about the golden handoff, which we've had a podcast on that book, and we had him on, the author, to talk about that. So that was cool. But one of the things I took away too was I think he talked about mostly how we just think as agents about selling real estate, and then sometimes we get into holding and or flipping. But there were so many others, like the building and the developing and remodeling, and what else was he talking about? Like rezoning, maybe. I don't know. There were so many different ones, and I thought, gosh, it's just we. And then you get in buying other agents' businesses. There's so many other things out there that we're not even, or at least I've never even really taken the time to think about.
Yeah. And, you know, one of the things he said, and I think a lot of people, this stops them from even looking for other businesses, is the money. And like, you know, he and Mitch both said, money is never the object. If you find the right opportunity, the money will show up.
Yeah.
You know, and the other thing that was surprising was some of the businesses that they had actually acquired or bought into or whatever, gotten equity in, wasn't that much money that the people needed. You know, there wasn't a ton of money.
Yeah, I remember he said something about the one person, he thought it was a great idea, and he asked him, well, how much money do you need? And the guy said, I need $10,000.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. So my big takeaways from this was, number one, I'm not lead generating any for other businesses. I don't have a who. I immediately texted my assistant and Sarah and said, hey, we need a missing person report on someone who could do this. And so I want to kind of have it. She's out of town this week working remotely. So I said, when we get back in town next week, let's sit down and talk about, you know, who this person might be and see who you know, and let's put some feelers out there and see if we could find a person that literally would do what Mitch did, which is, you know, get on the phone and lead generate on a regular basis.
Yep.
And just see what falls out, because something's going to fall out. It's a numbers game.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What would you look for in that person, or have you thought that far yet?
You know, definitely somebody with a lot more follow through, because I have been thinking about it a little bit, and I think I'm going to do an impact filter on it so that I'm real clear.
Yeah.
But I definitely think this is, you know, we've had a lot of conversations. Another topic that Gary and Jay did recently was, you know, they had the guy on, what was it? It was about stocks and index funds and things like that, right?
The simple plan to wealth.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, when I look at that, for mine and Jimmy's age, that's not necessarily the best thing. We've encouraged Press and Anna to do it because they're in their 30s.
Right.
But for us, we kind of missed the boat on that one. So listening to this conversation is more really what we should be doing, because number one, it's more cash flow. Businesses are cash flow. It's people making you money. Whereas, you know, I don't need something paid off in 20 years. We have plenty of those between all the single family homes and the cabins and things like that, and the commercial buildings that we have. So that's another thing to kind of think about is to, you know, think about what are you really trying to accomplish? How old are you? Have you actually gotten enough money coming in 20 years? Because I would think you wouldn't necessarily want to do this. I mean, you could do both. Honestly, you could do both. But I always say, what do you have that's a secure something coming in 15, 20 years from now? I always want to get that brick in there first and then build on the others. But that's just me.
Yeah, definitely. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah, my aha
so what,
similar to yours, just time blocking. Like today, Adam and I are going to look at a building at 3:00. And I just said, normally I would have always said, I'm too busy. Like, I don't have time. And I just have to put it in my schedule that we actually have to time block to go look at deals. I mean, we're never going to get the deals if we're not even going and looking at them to begin with. So more of just being aware around the time blocking of it.
And the next level for me, Dana, really is to stop feeling like I'm the one that has to go do it. If I had a Mitch or somebody I could trust, I don't really need any extra time to go look at something. And that's, to me, the hardest part to get out of this. Is so many of the businesses that Gary mentioned, he's never done one single thing as far as, the one thing he's never, he wrote the book, but he doesn't do the podcast. He doesn't teach the courses. That's Jeff Woods. And so I just think that is the next level thinking, especially for me. That's really hard because I enjoy all the other pieces of it, but you get to a place where you only have so much time. So I'm going to go back to kind of talking about what I would look for in a person. Well, one, I want to see what Mitch's KPA is. And I think we probably had that conversation before. I may have it somewhere in my notes, but what is his KPA? And then I would definitely think you want somebody who's really pretty intellectual. I mean, smart, like a lot of follow through, a lot of fact finder on the Colby. I don't think I want a quick start necessarily, because a quick start is just going to make a blink judgment that I can do that, and that's what I would do. But I would want the opposite. I'd want somebody who really can run the numbers and understands how to analyze the numbers. Somebody asked Mitch a question on something on how did you, there was something he did on a deal, and someone asked him, how did you know to do that? And he said, well, that's standard. Oh, and it was a development deal where he actually had a clause in there that the developer had to finish by a certain time, or they got to sweeten the pie or do something. And that was interesting because I probably would have never thought to put that in there, but he said, once you know those kind of deals, that's not uncommon. So I definitely would want somebody who would do fact finder and research, follow through, because they would learn all that stuff. They would want to be very sure.
So funny that's the one that you said, because I wrote that down. It was the development trigger default for acquisition or whatever. So if you didn't finish it in a certain time, then they had more ownership or whatever that was in there. But I thought the same thing. I thought, how did he know what that was? And I actually wrote that down on my notes and circled that because he definitely knows. But he also said he learned a lot through failing his way forward, and surrounding himself with the right people and asking really great questions to be able to learn all of that stuff.
Oh, the other thing that was real important is they haven't done any startup businesses. See, I think I would probably think about that, and that's where I think I bet a bunch of the risk already is. It's kind of like, think about it like Shark Tank. They're already asking those people about their numbers and their sales and all of that stuff.
I just actually found my note of two other things that I took away that were big ahas. He said, one, somebody asked him if he ever just basically is a lender, and does he just loan money? And Gary said no, that he's not a lender, he's an investor. And so he said that he would never just lend money. He wants to have an investment opportunity in whatever it is, which I thought that was great feedback. He said he's not a bank. And then the other thing that I wrote down that was, Gary said it's all about the terms and the price. Do you remember him saying that? He said you pick one. So if they say, I want this price, if I want $1 million, then Gary would say, okay, if that's your price, then here's my terms. I'll do this much down for this long for whatever. Or if Gary said this is the price, then they would say, okay, well, so he said you always want to pick one, and make sure that whatever the other is, like, you're comfortable with the term or the price. And I thought that was really smart, because you might not ever come to agreement on stuff, but if you could pick one that that's most important to you in the situation.
Well, and I think any of the right terms can fix even a little too high of a price.
Right.
So I think that's kind of the thinking on it is, especially there's a lot of deals sometimes where you can't get together on the price because everybody's so fixated on the price. But if you could say, well, look, I'll let you have the price, but here's the terms I need to make that price palatable to me.
That's right. Yeah. I thought that was smart.
Yep, I love it. So what I love is the conversation for realtors to wake up and say, I'm not only a business owner of my real estate. I don't not only think as a business owner of my own real estate business, but I need to think of myself as a business owner of any business opportunity that I might run across or know of. And I think the conversation is where that starts, because I know me, once I start hearing that kind of conversation, it opens up a whole new horizon. And I think we start to see opportunities that we never saw before.
Definitely. Yeah.
When we're ready for it.
Agree. Yeah, I totally agree. And we're in a great market where we can start to even really think I feel like our market is still a little nuts right now. And so a lot of agents are thinking about other things. And I just think this is it's great timing.
Yep, so true. So what would be the last thought you would want to leave people with around them thinking about business acquisitions, and as someone who's a business investor instead of just a business owner?
For me, I think the last or biggest takeaway is just having the plan. I mean, Adam and I are going to sit down this weekend and really say, okay, here's what we need to do within the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, and having these other things as options. It's not just currently what we know. It's going out and looking at what other options are and knowing what plan do we need to put in place to get there. And we just haven't spent enough time on that. And I think it's just making sure to know that, is this even a topic of conversation when you sit down at night at dinner? You know, what are you talking about? And is this something that maybe you and your partner need to start talking more about and bringing it, no matter really how old you are or how much money you have? I think it's just something that you always need to be having conversations around.
Yeah, and I think the aha is everybody only has 24 hours. And again, we let our time dictate the type of income we're going to make by the choices of what we spend that time on. And I think getting very, very clear about spending time on this kind of conversation on a regular basis is what's going to get us there. I think without the conversation, you don't start looking for the time. You know, I always say, everybody has time for what they want to have time for, myself included, right? So I'm making choices that edge out any kind of conversation about business acquisition. So what could I get out of my time? What could I get out of my 24 hours? Move it to the side so that I would have more conversations like this, because it's the conversations that lead to the opportunities. And I think once you kind of set a plan around something, the opportunities they were there yesterday, they're there today, they'll be there tomorrow, but we become the people that can see them. So if this is something of interest to you, you may not be ready today, but where are you having these conversations and who are you having them with? That's where it starts.
Yep, totally agree.
Awesome. Well, Dana, thank you. This has been a great conversation. I can't wait to hear about some of yours. Maybe we'll hold each other accountable for what businesses or acquisitions have we looked at in the last 30 days.
Yeah, I'd love that.
That way we know we're going to have to make a comment or a conversation with each other about it. And so we get to share what are the business acquisitions that or what have we done, even if it's moving towards finding the person. What steps have we made to do this? Because I think this is both important for both you and I, enough that we don't want to talk about it on one podcast and then not do it.
Yep, totally agree.
Awesome. All right. Well, Dana, I guess I'll see you next week, or not next week because you'll be in St. John, but I'll see you the week after.
Next week, yes.
Have a great time.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.